I want to bring you now an extraordinary story that's unfolded in the Australian Capital Territory. It's the story of a couple who were engaged. They parted. They were going to part. During this period, the woman claimed the other partner had raped her. She laid rape allegations against him to such an extent that he served some time in jail. He was a prison guard, so he ended up behind bars as a prison guard. Months later, he was out. She has now been convicted and is going to jail herself for false rape allegations. It's an extraordinary story. It hasn't received quite as much coverage as it should have, especially in this Me Too age. It's got pretty widespread ramifications. I'm joined to talk about the details of this by Bettina Arndt, the author of Men Too and other books and a specialist in this area. Thanks for joining us, Bettina.
Pleasure to be here.
What is it about this saga that attracted your interest, and why is it so important?
It's very rare that women go to jail for making false rape accusations, although there are plenty of them. And that's the sort of situation that I'm contacted with about over the years. In this case, I was contacted by the dad of this young man when he first faced these accusations years ago. And I've been tracking this case for many years. This is a malicious campaign by this woman over years and years to do in not only the guy, the young man, but also his family. Most extraordinary case.
We'll just put up on screen now some of the headlines at the time. This has only come to a climax in court over the past month. It's been reported by the Canberra Times and the ABC in Canberra primarily. There hasn't been a lot of coverage outside of the ACT. Here's the Sydney Morning Herald covering the story from the Canberra Times, but it's a story that's got really national ramifications, I would have thought. Let's go through the detail of it. This bloke ends up as a prison guard in jail because he's facing these rape allegations.
And the issue is he's engaged. He discovers his fiancée is having an affair with a police officer. She's working in the police station in an admin job, so he breaks off the engagement. She gets really, apparently, annoyed by that and goes after him with the help of her police friends, her new boyfriend and his friends.
Have any of them faced any charges?
One of them has had to leave the police force.
Wow.
The guy who was mainly in charge of really pursuing this man. I mean,
so she had the help of others to try and frame her partner for a rape that did not occur.
And it started off, as it often starts off, with false allegations of domestic violence and an alleged breach of those orders. That is the way to set up a man in this country. It's happening across the country. You don't need any evidence for false allegations of violence. And then to allege a breach means that the next thing he does wrong, he goes to jail.
Well, let's have a look at that. You've spoken to this gentleman who wants to remain anonymous, so we don't show his face, but he talked about his experience. Here's a snippet of Bettina's interview where he talks about what it's like being in jail as a prison guard.
Yeah, I mean, I guess on the prison hierarchy, you're probably the worst of the worst. I mean, police officers, ex-military, and definitely, correctional officers or screws. They're target on your back straight away. Then you factor in the types of offences they were too. So, sexual assault is one of the worst that, a guy can be accused of, or anyone to be accused of. That even in the prison hierarchy system is frowned upon as well. So, it wasn't a good place to be.
Yeah, that's a pretty tough place to be. We're worried not knowing what's going to happen to you, and we now know, subsequent to legal action and a trial, that he was falsely imprisoned.
Falsely imprisoned. He went to jail without any attempt to verify his alibi. He had a solid alibi. He put witnesses present on the... So she makes this allegation about a rape. Most extraordinary rape accusation. Full of bizarre allegations that kept changing, that, she apparently hit herself over the head because there was allegations that he hit her with a brick. He'd hosed her down, but she was totally dry.
There's supposed to be a condom involved, which seems unlikely, but a cat stole the condom?
Yeah, alleged that there was a condom wrapper there, but then what happened to the condom? Oh, the cat ate it. It went on and on. 32 charges against him, and the police made no attempt to to look at his alibi, nothing. He goes to jail that day for 4 months.
Now, your point here is an innate bias in the system to take what the woman's complaint is at face value, whatever she says it is, and disregard the rights of the man.
And which is what's been shown. There's a series of cases involved, magistrate hearings regarding this case, and many of the magistrates have pointed out there was no evidence to put this man in jail. None. It wasn't even investigated. And that's what's shocking. And it's that AVO at the back of all of this that is really dangerous. So he's in jail for 4 months. In the meantime, OK, we've got these crooked cops who've been helping set him up and helping her with all these accusations. In the meantime, there's a good cop, a woman, a detective, who gets suspicious about this whole case. And there's a sort of sting operation where essentially, the woman who ends up in jail is being tracked by the police. Her movements are being tracked, and the cops who are involved in helping her are being followed. And so, in the end, all this evidence accumulated, the detective put it all together, goes to a magistrate in the nighttime, and a nighttime hearing, presents this all to a magistrate who immediately says, let's get him out of prison. Right. Because they realised he was falsely imprisoned.
So the good cop, the female cop who did all this investigation, got him out. Let's just have a listen to the victim here again about just how low he got while he was in jail.
I did get to the point where I looked at my radio and the cord on it would have done the job. I tried it, I made sure it was the right length and everything else. So that's something that my parents have only recently found out. I know that broke them, but I felt like I couldn't do anything else. The only thing I could do was to not be a burden and not have them have to fight for something.
Well, when you talk about contemplating suicide in that situation, then obviously it could have been worse. I mean, the good news here is there was a good police woman who investigated and got him out, and as we know now, the woman is in jail for a false rape accusation.
And in the meantime, there was 4 years of her stalling, using every legal tactic under the book.
Yeah.
Victim centred justice, so she always gets the benefit of the doubt. In the meantime, this woman is pursuing Dan, the prison guard's family, and setting up false allegations against them, planting stolen goods in their house. I mean, it's a most extraordinary story. It cost that family $300,000 plus in legal fees to defend Dan and try to get him out of prison.
And those cost issues will play out. But the issue here, though, is allegations of rape, of sexual assault. Of course we've got to take them seriously. And if a woman says she's been raped, then it's not surprising, is it, that police officers and other people involved are going to take that at face value and do everything they can to protect the victim, the female victim.
But since when do you not investigate the case and not check out his alibi and believe everything she says and make no attempt to investigate what the family is saying, what the friends of his are saying? I mean, that's what's happened to our justice system.
Is this just an extraordinary case that is out of kilter with the way the system works?
There are men in prison around Australia based on what I regard as appallingly biased investigations, where the woman's side of the story is always believed and the man's side is rarely properly investigated. And it's very frightening. And that's why I made this YouTube video about this, to warn people what's going on.
And you were trying to promote also a fundraising
I've got a fundraiser on my website raising money to try to get some compensation for this family.
And your website address is?
But if you look up Bettina Arndt, you'll find
Google Bettina Arndt.
And we're trying to get people to lobby the Attorney General, saying that he should have an ex gratia payment because this man was wrongly imprisoned.
We're going to hear more about this case, though, aren't we?
I certainly hope so. What's shocking is how little coverage it's getting. And if it was a man in the same circumstances, who'd had this campaign against women, it'd be all over the papers.
It could well do. Thanks for joining us, Bettina. Appreciate it. That's Bettina Arndt, the author of Men Too and many other books, and a specialist in this area. It is an extraordinary story. You can Google around, find some of those newspaper stories or the ABC report. It's just extraordinary what occurred here, and it's a worry if that does shed any light into police practices in these matters. If that is true, then they need to sharpen them up dramatically and quickly.